There's a cruel joke that life plays on every human being. It gives us the capacity for romantic love, then guarantees that it will break our hearts. Think about it. Every great love story you've ever heard, Romeo and Juliet, Cleopatra and Mark Antony, even your own grandparents who seem to have the perfect marriage, they all end the same way. In separation, in death, in disappointment, or at best in the quiet resignation of two people who have simply learned to tolerate each other's snoring. But here's the question almost nobody asks. What if romantic love is designed to disappoint? What if its very nature carries the seeds of its own destruction? Take Maria and James. They met in a coffee shop on a Tuesday morning, and for them, it was love at first sight. Suddenly the world shimmered. Colors were brighter, food tasted better, even ordinary conversations felt profound. They were sure they had found their soulmate, their missing piece, their one true love. But 6 months later, James left dirty dishes in the sink, and Maria broke down in tears. "This isn't the man I fell in love with," she sobbed to her friend. But here's the truth. James hadn't changed. He had always left dirty dishes in sinks. Maria had just been too intoxicated by romance to notice. What Maria discovered, what we all eventually discover, is that we don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with projections. Romantic love begins with imagination. You meet someone and immediately your mind starts spinning a story, not about who they are, but about who they could be, who you want them to be, who you need them to be. You see a stranger across the room, and suddenly they become the hero of your private fairy tale. They're going to complete you, save you, understand you in ways no one else ever has. They'll make life meaningful, exciting, perfect. But this person you've fallen for, this flawless, understanding, life-completing person, exists only in your imagination. The real person is standing right in front of you, but you can't see them through the haze of your projection. It's like falling for a movie character and then being shocked when the actor turns out to be an ordinary human being with bad breath and political opinions you don't agree with. And here's the twist, they're doing the exact same thing to you. They're not falling in love with you either. They're falling in love with their idea of you. You become their fantasy, their salvation, their missing piece. So what you have is two people, each in love with a fiction, each trying to live up to impossible expectations, each gradually realizing that reality is far messier than romance ever promised. No wonder it ends in disappointment. How could it not? But the cruelest part isn't the disappointment itself. It's that we blame it on choosing the wrong person. We convince ourselves, if only I could find my true soulmate, then love would finally work. So we break up, we start over, we swipe right. We polish our dating profiles, presenting highlight reels for strangers to project onto. And the cycle begins again. I once knew a woman named Catherine who had been married 4 times. "I keep marrying the wrong men," she told me. But listening to her stories, I realized she hadn't married 4 different men. She had married 4 different versions of the same fantasy. Each husband disappointed her in the same way, by being human instead of perfect. Catherine wasn't unlucky. She was addicted to the drug of romantic projection. Romantic love, you see, is a beautiful kind of madness. When you're in love, your brain is literally altered. Dopamine floods your system. Logic takes a back seat, critical thinking shuts down, you become intoxicated. That's why lovers do such absurd things. They write bad poetry. They stay up all night talking about nothing. They find profound meaning in the way their beloved butters toast. They're not thinking clearly, and they're not supposed to. Romantic love is nature's trick, designed to get you to bond long enough to reproduce. It's a temporary insanity that overrides better judgment. And like every intoxication, it wears off. The tragedy isn't that romantic love fades. The tragedy is what we do when it does. Instead of recognizing that we were under the influence of a beautiful delusion, we assume something went wrong. We blame our partner for changing, they didn't change. We blame ourselves for making a bad choice, but most likely we didn't. We blame love itself for being unreliable, but love is perfectly reliable at being unreliable. What if disappointment isn't a flaw but a feature? Take David and Lisa. They fell head over heels, married quickly, and for a year and a half were blissfully happy. Then Lisa got pregnant. Money got tight. David worked long hours. Lisa felt neglected. "He's not the man I married," she complained. "He used to bring me flowers, write me letters, make me feel like I was everything." But David was exhausted, stretched thin between responsibilities. He loved Lisa deeply, but he couldn't sustain the intensity of early romance while building a life for their family. Lisa faced a choice: mourn the loss of romantic intensity or look for what lay beyond it. This is the turning point where most relationships either collapse or transform. Romantic love was never meant to last forever. It's a bridge, a doorway that gets you close enough to someone to discover whether there's anything real beneath the fantasy. Sometimes there isn't, and when the romance fades, you realize you're strangers with good chemistry. Those relationships end, and perhaps they should. But sometimes the end of romance marks the beginning of something far more valuable: real love. Real love isn't projection, it's seeing. It's not about finding your missing piece. It's about becoming whole enough to appreciate another whole person. It's not about being completed. It's about being yourself so fully that you can love someone else for being themselves. Romantic love says, "I love you because you complete me." Real love says, "I love you because you exist." Romantic love is conditional. "I love you as long as you keep fulfilling my fantasy." Real love is unconditional. "I love you even though you're nothing like my fantasy." Romantic love is about possession. Real love is about appreciation. So why does romance always disappoint? Because we expect it to do what it cannot do. We expect it to last forever, to solve every problem, to make us endlessly happy. We treat it like the destination when it's only the vehicle. Imagine falling in love with a train ride and then being furious when the train stops. The train did its job. It got you where you were meant to go. You just forgot to get off. That's what happened with David and Lisa. After months of fighting, they finally admitted what they were really grieving: not the loss of love, but the loss of illusion. They decided to try something new, to meet each other again, as they actually were, not as they had imagined each other to be. It was terrifying at first. Without the rosy haze, they saw everything: David's withdrawal under stress, Lisa's constant need for reassurance, his morning grumpiness, her passive-aggressive comments. All the flaws romance had hidden were now obvious. But as they stopped trying to live up to fantasies, they began to relax into their real selves. And as they got more real, they discovered they actually liked each other. Not the imagined versions, but the actual humans. This is what no one tells you. The disappointment of romance ending is actually the birth pangs of real love beginning. But most people never make it that far. They mistake the fading of romance for the death of love. They're like someone who plants a seed, then digs it up when the first green shoot appears, assuming it died. They don't realize the seed had to die for the plant to grow. I once knew a couple married 43 years. When asked how they stayed together so long, the husband always said, "We fell in love with each other 7 different times." What he meant was they let their relationship evolve. They didn't try to preserve romance like a pressed flower. They allowed each other to grow, to change, to disappoint, to surprise. They fell in love not with who their partner had been, but with who they were becoming. Why does this feel so hard? Because romantic love promises something irresistible: the illusion that we can escape our loneliness. In romance, you feel fully seen, fully understood, fully connected. But that feeling rests on projection. You feel understood because you've imagined that the other person shares your thoughts and dreams. You feel connected because you're both high on the same drug. When the high wears off, the loneliness returns. And instead of learning to accept this essential human truth, we chase the next fix. Real love doesn't erase loneliness. It makes it bearable. It says, "I will sit with you in your separate experience. I will honor your individuality even when it means I cannot fully merge with you." Romance promises union. Real love offers communion. 2 people choosing to share space while remaining themselves. I think of Emma, a woman heartbroken after her 3rd divorce. "I keep choosing the wrong men," she told me. "They all start out perfect, and then disappoint me. After months of talking, I asked her, what if you stopped looking for someone who wouldn't disappoint you and started looking for someone whose disappointments you could live with? That question changed her life. She stopped chasing perfection and started appreciating reality. Today, she's been happily married 12 years, not to a flawless man, but to one whose flaws fit her own. Here's what I've learned. The couples who last aren't the ones who never disappoint each other. They're the ones who learn to disappoint each other gracefully. They know disappointment isn't the enemy of love, expectation is. Expect someone to be your everything, and they'll always be your nothing. Expect them to complete you, and they'll always leave you empty. But expect them to be imperfectly human, and you might just find moments of transcendence. So how do you love in a world where romance always fades? First, you stop believing the fairy tale. The person who excites you isn't your savior or your missing piece. They're just another human being, flawed and wonderful like you. Second, you let romance do its job. Get you close enough to see if there's potential for something real. Third, you practice conscious love. You choose to see your partner as they are, not as you wish them to be. And finally, you realize that the goal of love isn't finding someone who makes you happy. Happiness that depends on another person isn't happiness, it's dependency. The goal of love is to find someone with whom you can be unhappy in a meaningful way. Someone whose struggles you'll share, whose growth you'll support, whose humanity you'll honor even when it lets you down. It may sound unromantic, but in truth it's far more romantic than romance itself. Because choosing to love someone not for their perfections but despite their flaws, that's the closest thing to magic this world has to offer. Romantic love is about finding the right person. Real love is about being the right person. Romantic love asks, do you complete me? Real love asks, how can I serve your becoming? Romantic love ends in disappointment because it's built on illusion. Real love never ends because it's built on truth. So the next time you feel that flutter of attraction, enjoy it. Let it draw you towards someone worth knowing. But don't mistake the flutter for the destination. The flutter is just an invitation to the dance. The real question is, when the music stops and the lights come on, will you still want to be in the room with this person? If the answer is yes, not because they're perfect, but because they're real, then you've found something worth keeping. That's not romance. That's something infinitely better. That's love, period.